So in the previous chapters, we've looked at some of the most staple effects that have sort of stood the test of time through working with sound. We've looked at compression, EQ, and reverb, but it's just the tip of the iceberg of what's possible within Logic. If we click on, let's say, the next sound down, this gatekeeper sound, what I can see when I come into the list of effects in all of these categories is that there are absolutely masses of options for processing sounds. So I've got amps and pedals. Now, of course, these are kind of designed with guitarists in mind, but they're absolutely fantastic to use on other types of sound as well. If you want to rough up drum loops or add some grit to bass lines, then the amps and pedals are great. Delays are echoes. They give us a chance to have a sound repeat. And actually, we could apply a little bit of echo to one of the sounds within our tracks here. In fact, I'm going to just come back to this analog pluck sound, which we've added some reverb to, and I'm going to come into delay, and we can begin to see what happens when we put a stereo delay on a sound like this as well as reverb. What we can do is to choose a delay and add a different delay time for each side of the mix. In other words, the sound is going to echo at different speeds in the left and right channel, and it produces this really nice smeary effect. You can turn up the amount of it for both channels. And so what we've now got are two effects working together, reverb and then delay. And one of the great things about signal processing is the option to have one sound go into an effect, pass into the next one, and then the next one. And chaining groups of effects together is a really nice way of being able to personalize sounds and make them your own. So we've got delay and echo effects there within the delay section. Distortion speaks for itself. It's a way of just being able to add crunch and power to sounds. Dynamics, we've dived in here to look at compression already, but there are other tools in here to allow us to change dynamic range between individual sounds or indeed across a whole mix. EQ gives us the opportunity to change tone. We've seen channel EQ already, and we've made mention of the fact that basically there are other options within here as well, all of which will let you change the tone of sounds in different ways. Filters are amazingly powerful tools. What they allow you to do is to retain either the low end of a sound or the high end and get rid of or filter out other frequency content as well. We'll come back to filtering in a moment. We've got imaging tools which allow us to play around with sounds in the stereo space, so whether or not we're looking to make sounds feel a bit wider or deliberately narrowing them. We've got metering tools which allow us to see the changes that we're making to the sounds that we work with. Modulation effects like flanging, phasing and doubling effects which make sounds sort of just a bit bigger or a bit more spacey. They're all in the modulation section. We're going to come back to multi-effects in just a moment. I've got pitch tools which allow me to correct the pitch of things if I'm working with vocal parts and I want to get my singer a little bit better in tune. I can do that with pitch correction, but I can also transform vocals and do crazy things with the vocal transformer. Reverb we've looked at. This is a way of being able to add spatial effects to the sounds that we're working with. And then we've got a specialized folder containing things like an exciter, which is just going to add hype to sounds, and remix effects, which are great for working with dance music productions, particularly on the output channel. And we'll see more of that in the intermediate course. So there are all of these enormous effects. What we're going to do is we're just going to come back to one more of these. I'm going to unmute the sound that's down here, which is a white noise sound. Now, I've put one of Logic's multi-effects on this channel. This is an effect called step effects, but before we actually hear it, I'm going to just open it up and bypass it so we can hear the original sound in the context of this mix. Now, this is going to sound a bit odd. It's a bit like radio static. It's just a white noise sound that's coming from one of Logic synthesizers, and there's no movement in it at all. You'll hear it when it comes in. Okay, so that doesn't sound so great right now. We've just got this kind of white noise blast that's just playing through the last 4 bars of the track. Let's just solo it. And what I'm going to do is to put a loop around it so we're just focusing on this area. Now, what step effects does is to provide what we call this kind of modular effect. In other words, lots of separate modules which we can chain together and do interesting things with. And you can have a lot of fun experimenting with options here. But what I've also got, if I want to just dive in and see what's possible, is a whole series of presets which exist. If I click here at the top, I can come into here. I can see that I've got folders for ambiences or complex gated sounds. And I'm going to go for something which is kind of simple and gated. Gated means kind of broken up into chunks. And there's an effect here called chaos gates, which I'm going to load. And what this does is to give me exactly that sound processed. And you'll see that what's happening within step effects is the sound's being broken up into chunks, which make it much more interesting. And that's taken that sound, it's completely repurposed it. Let's just hear what it sounds like in the whole mix now. And you can hear that delay effect that we added to one of the other synths is switched on this module too, which is why we've now got this sound which kind of lasts after the end of the white noise. And we're going to hear the gate is breaking up its volume and providing this kind of pattern. So as we can begin to see, the signal processing options within Logic are absolutely vast. And these step effects, these multi-effects, these modular effects, which give us these different panes that we can work on and activate, switch on and off as we want to, are a really great way of experimenting with what's possible in terms of signal processing.